My name is Jessica Zimmerly, and I'm the Program and Outreach Director of Earth Ministry and Washington Interfaith Power and Light. It's a joy to virtually celebrate this 50th anniversary of Earth Day with you. Earth Day is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together to honor what gives us life, as well as a reminder to protect Earth and all of her inhabitants. Now, every major faith tradition has a statement on caring for our common home. We all want a world that is healthier and reflects our shared religious values of justice, stewardship, and responsibility. Earth Day is truly an interfaith event. In the last 50 years, the people-powered movement of Earth Day has grown so large that we can no longer contain it to a single day. We now strive for every day to be Earth Day. And that feels more real now than ever, especially since we can't gather together this year. Yet we will all continue to do our part in the good work together toward environmental justice. Earth Ministry's mission is to transform faith into action for the well-being of communities and the environment. And I'm excited to share that as part of the Earth Day Northwest 2020 movement, Earth Ministry is releasing a new resource for congregations. We have developed a toolkit to help with creation care efforts in congregational life, working for environmental justice, water conservation, waste reduction, and clean and efficient energy use. It's our hope that your faith community will choose a project to lean into in the year to come, so as to carry forward the spirit of Earth Day. You can check out earthministry.org for more details. Now, my role at Earth Ministry is to support houses of worship across our state that are living out their call to care for creation. I find inspiration and hope in the many ways that your communities are greening your life together and advocating for environmental justice. Together, we are raising the moral voice for climate action, and we're also practicing what we preach. May you too be encouraged as you hear from the following faith leaders from a variety of religious traditions. And may the next 50 years of Earth Care lead to a more just and sustainable world.
Hi there, my name is Imam Adam Jamal from the Muslim Association of Puget Sound. As a Muslim, I believe that the world around us is a gift to us by God. Not only is it a gift, but it's a trust. And as trustees of this world, we must take care of it. And when we leave this world, we have to make sure that we return this trust to God in the same condition that it was given to us in, if not better. And unfortunately, as we know, humanity has done a very good job of making the planet worse. And that's why at our mosque, we have a specific program that we started called MAPS Now, which stands for Nature, Outdoors, and Wildlife. As a part of MAPS Now, we have sponsored wildlife and nature-focused initiatives, like efforts to clean up the environment, plant native species, and provide trail maintenance. We are dedicated to making our neighborhoods and environment more ecologically sustainable by preserving the nature and wildlife in the Puget Sound and across Washington through collaboration, education, and service. We even hold events at our mosque from time to time to talk about how we can do our part and how Islam, our religion, encourages that action. Thank you.
The constructive lessons from our current global health crisis relate to a much larger, broader, and more enduring climate crisis. Though the context of COVID-19 is more compact, intensive, and dramatic, the impact of the ongoing degradation of our world is far more enduring and irreparable. There is no vaccine for the ills we inflict upon our environment, only the hard work of a radical transformation of our way of life. Perhaps we can look at this current challenge as a tragic gift of insight, learning not only what we can do to confront the next pandemic, but how some of the same attitudes and actions can be applied to our larger environmental urgency. And many of these insights are rooted in our faith traditions, for we are all called to embrace a vision of the world that is larger than ourselves and to which we are all obligated, as we raise empathy over ego, common cause over self-interest, the spirit of sacrifice over short-term gains, As the creation story compels and inspires us, we are stewards of the planet as much as we are supporters of one another, bound in a shared tapestry of being, traveling together towards a brighter future.
Hello, I am Bishop Shelley Bryan Wee in the Northwest Washington Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. The other day, I was listening to a podcast, and this podcast said that one of the worst things that could have happened between humans and the earth was when Christians started building massive cathedrals in the Middle Ages. Suddenly, people were inside, and they no longer saw themselves as part of the natural world. I think there's some truth in this observation. As a Christian of European descent who happens to love stained glass windows, I confess on this Earth Day that sometimes when I'm gazing at stained glass, as beautiful as it is, I forget that I'm part of an interconnected web of life. It's so easy to forget what is outside the cathedral, whatever we consider the cathedral is. Like, where did this lettuce come from? Or where did this gas come from? And all of the issues that come around that. Sometimes being inside cathedrals leads many of us to squander and misuse this amazing place and the communities around us. But here's the thing. As a Christian, I follow Jesus. And what did Jesus do over and over and over in the Gospels? What does Jesus continue to call us to do? Jesus calls us to leave our man-made cathedrals and enter into community. Jesus calls his followers to work for justice so that land may be used responsibly and everyone may receive their daily bread. Jesus calls us to leave our cathedrals so that we might resist structures of power that lead a few to get everything and most to get little or nothing. Jesus leads us out of cathedrals to follow and partner with communities who for decades have been leading this charge. Maybe this is a learning we can have on this Earth Day in the year 2020. For strangely enough, in this strange time, we cannot get into our man-made cathedrals. And so here we are in the world. Through God, let us work together for environmental justice for all. Happy Earth Day.
I'm Father Michael Ryan, pastor of St. James Cathedral in Seattle. It's impossible for me to think of Earth Day 2020, or of care for creation for that matter, without thinking about two people by the name of Francis. One is Pope Francis. His encyclical letter on care for the earth, our common home, was intended to be a wake-up call not just for Roman Catholics, but for all people of goodwill. He entitled the letter Laudato Si, borrowing words from the saint whose name he took on the day he was elected Pope, St. Francis of Assisi. The words Laudato Si are taken from St. Francis of Assisi's poem in praise of God the Creator, a poem that gives voice to each of God's creatures and is something of a symphony of praise for the wonders of creation. In the letter, Pope Francis reminds us that we need to listen to the cries of creation and to the cries of the poor. Why wouldn't creation be crying out? We have been and are at this very moment committing great sins against creation, exploiting it for our own selfish purposes and for the selfish purposes of governments, multinationals, and conglomerates. And why wouldn't the poor be crying out as well? The poor are the ones who suffer most from our mindless degradation of the earth and its precious resources. The poor of the world begin with little and they end up with nothing. So we need to hear the cries of the poor as well as the cries of creation. And then we need to hear the voices of young people who see more clearly than anyone the immensity of the crisis we face and who are rightfully sounding the alarm and demanding change. Young people are the ones who are reminding us that the human family has become alienated from the earth, that our relationship with the earth has been broken, that it's on life support, causing untold devastation not only to the earth, but to all the inhabitants of the earth. As pastor of a large urban parish and someone with a leadership role in our community, I feel it incumbent upon me to take steps to make changes to my own lifestyle, to leave behind harmful, exploitative habits, to get beyond consumerism, individualism, and selfishness. In other words, to be a good example. And my prayer is that the pandemic through which we are now living will bring about a conversion of heart for the whole human family, that it will help bring us to our senses, moving us away from our excesses and our blindness, so that we can build a common home that is worthy of us, worthy also of the Creator God who entrusted the creation to our care and who will one day demand an accounting from us.
Greetings, everyone. This is Steve Thomason. I'm the Dean at St. Mark's Episcopal Cathedral in Seattle, and it's our great delight to be a part of Birthday Northwest 2020. And we're so delighted that the interfaith community has joined together in this endeavor as we double our commitment to being good stewards of God's creation. To that end, our leadership board at St. Mark's has adopted a creation care vision statement, which I want to read now, and because it expresses who we are and our commitments in this regard. Our love for God and for the earth requires that we limit our carbon emissions as a church and in our personal lives so that all of God's creation might thrive. As a community and as individuals, we strive to not only reduce our carbon footprint, but also to draw down excess carbon in the atmosphere through a range of positive solutions to create a healthier human society as we cherish God's creation. It is our goal for St. Mark's Cathedral and its congregation to have a net zero carbon footprint by the year 2030. We know that's a lofty goal, but it is one that we are fervently committed to because we know that this is important work. Indeed, it is seminal work for us all, and we hope and look forward to how we join together in the days and years to come as we go about this work. Thank you.
My name is Beth Cronister, and I serve University Unitarian Church as the Minister of Justice and Care. As a Unitarian Universalist, we believe that life is deeply interconnected and interdependent, inherently so, and that our religious practice is to live into these inherent relationships by making love and justice more known. You have just heard from a plurality of religious leaders about why and how their faith calls them to care for the earth. Our different religions remind us that we are part of something much larger, something holy, and religious texts and traditions remind us that we are also part of larger stories, larger histories of peoples of faith, showing faith and courage against great odds. Our spiritual practices also connect us to what is here and now, and know it as sacred. These are each seeds for hope and resilience planted within this deeply necessary and vital work for all of creation. Would you please join me now in the spirit of prayer? Spirit of life, holy oneness. In our times of greatest confusion, we reach out for you. Call your many names, forgetting your ever-abiding presence in all of life. You who is in the wind as well as in the breath, in the ground beneath our feet as in the seedling making its way toward the sun, and the waters which cover and rain down upon the earth, connecting all of life to all of time. May we remember this sacred gift of being part of the whole of creation. May we live knowing we share an origin as well as a destiny. May we forge bonds of love, equity, and justice, and as the trees teach, may we rise up rooted.